Hi, this is Chris Potter. On this video, I'm going to talk about alternate fingerings. The first fingering that you absolutely must know, if you don't already use this fingering, you absolutely must use this fingering, is thumb B flat. If you look at the thumb key that you play, this is with your left hand, there are two parts to this key. One part pushes down one key here in the back, and the second part, which is usually a little smaller, pushes down not only this key in the back, but also this key in the front. And it's this key that actually makes the note B flat. Now, using thumb B flat allows you to not use your right hand index finger to play the B flat that way. So the B flat with the right hand index finger is sometimes called the long B flat, sometimes it's called the 2 and 2 B flat because you have two fingers down on each hand. But using thumb B flat allows you to not have to use this finger, and that is incredibly useful for places where you have to go between, say, G and B flat. So instead of having to go like this, you're just going like this, and it makes it so much easier to play. A flat to B flat, same thing. Even A to B flat is a lot easier if you're using the thumb B flat key. Now, you leave the two parts of the key down the whole time. It's not like you're having to switch back and forth and that you only use that when you play the note B flat. You leave it down the whole time. If the thumb is supposed to be down, you just leave it down on that thumb B flat. So you can play the F major scale, just leave it down. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. You just leave it down the whole time. You cannot play B natural and high F sharp, but those are the only two notes that you can't play. So it really makes your life so much easier. So if you don't know this fingering, you absolutely must learn it. On bass flute, it is a lifesaver. The next note I want to talk about, the next two notes, is when you have to go from C to D in the middle of the staff. This is just a lot of large, noisy keys to have to be moving up and down. So my suggestion, if you have a passage in which you have to alternate between these two, and it's not fast enough to trill, that you just leave the right hand fingers down. So I'm going to start on D, and then I'm going to play C. Is far preferable to you can do it so much faster and so much more cleanly. Now, it does make the C a little bit flat. When you put keys down, you tend to flatten pitch. When you raise keys up, you tend to raise pitch. So you have to be careful where you use it. Again, this is if it's slower than a trill, for which you would just use a trill key, but it's still fast enough that it's awkward, so just leave that down. This also works for B flat to D, so just leave those fingers down. Here's B flat to D. Now I'm just going to leave my right hand fingers. So much cleaner, so much faster. You can even go from D to B natural. You have to raise up the right hand index finger. But I still think that's preferable to just fewer fingers that you have to move up and down, fewer keys moving up and down that are going to make a noise for you. Here's another really useful fingering for the low octave. If you have, say, a passage where you have to alternate between, say, low C and F, what I suggest and highly recommend is you just leave your little fingers down on the low C fingering and just move the other two fingers. It's so much easier, rather than trying to slide that little finger back up to the E flat key and then slide it back down. Really hard to do that fast. So just leave those fingers down there. Now, it does make the F a little bit on the flat side. If you want, you can go ahead and lift up those fingers, but leave them down poised right over the top of the low C keys. Now, this also works for going from C to E, and so it just makes things C to G, just makes things so much easier. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is a fingering for a response problem. And this is the E on the top space of the staff. On bass flute, you are not imagining things. It definitely splats. The note just doesn't come out cleanly. It's like you're getting both octaves, it's fuzzy, it's just not a very good note for us. So I have 3 suggestions to make. So down here in my right hand, the first thing we're going to try is we're going to add to the E flat key, we're going to put down the C sharp key as well at the same time. So I'm just going to add this key to it. And you won't hear much of a difference on the video, but if you do this at home, you'll hear that there's a difference. It cleans it up, it brightens it up just a little bit. So here's with the E flat key, and then I'm going to be adding the other key. Can you hear it brightens it up just a little bit? That is an easy fingering to get to. It helps a little bit. The next fingering I want to talk about is the one that is going to save your neck. When you have to play this double tongue, triple tongue, you've got to make a nice short little pickup to something, and that is you add the trill key underneath the right hand 4th finger. And this is one of the reasons I always recommend basses must have trill keys. We use it for so much more than trilling. So I'm just adding that key. So I'll play this note with and without that trill key. Again, it's a little hard to hear on the video perhaps, but if you do this at home, you realize this is an absolutely fabulous fingering. Now, it's a little bit on the sharp side, so to solve that, you can lift up the E flat key. And that brings it right in tune and still maintains that absolutely crisp articulation you can get with that note. The next thing I want to talk about is the D above the staff. Now this is definitely a pitch problem, and in my book, which is called Alto and Bass Flute Resource Book, which is published by Falls House Press, this is available from Flute World, and you can also get it from me. In this book, I have 2.5 pages. There's yet another page over here. 2.5 pages of alternate fingering suggestions for pitch problems and response problems. So there will be many, many more in here that you might want to take a look at. So this is the D above the staff. It's on the sharp side, and I will talk about intonation on my next video, video number 7. So for this D above the staff, the first thing I try is to just lift off the E flat key. So again, when I lift up this key, it actually closes that key. So again, if you close keys, it lowers pitch. So here's the D with and without the E flat key. So you can hear that that lowers the pitch. Sometimes this is all that you need and it's perfect. If you're playing that D at a very loud dynamic level, here is a flat fingering, which is extremely useful. So for this one, I'm playing a C and I'm adding the trill key that's underneath my right hand index finger. So here's with the regular fingering, which is sharp, and then this alternate fingering, which is flat. So I use that fingering if I'm playing that note very, very loudly, and it works great. So you want to have several fingerings available for notes that help you with intonation. I hope I was able to give you some good ideas today. Thank you.